So the reason why I think there's such a good product for financial advisors is because I think the quarterly income note especially is almost the perfect product for a financial advisor. And I don't say that lightly, but I've seen advisors develop their whole business around a quarterly income note. There's two ways of doing it. One is you just use a quarterly income note. 3 months' time, you can call your client, and so long as the markets haven't dropped by 20-odd%, you're gonna have a coupon. It's a good news story almost instantly to tell a client. Mm-hmm. The other way to do it is to basically buy 3 quarterly income notes over a 3-month period. So you're essentially creating monthly coupons. In that case, you've then got a client who's receiving monthly coupons into his account, and you can call him whenever you want or call her whenever you want with a good news story, which you just don't get with mutual funds or ETFs. It doesn't exist. So what's good about it is you're building that relationship constantly because you're calling them and telling them. You can even tell them ahead of time. I could call them now and say, on Friday, you're going to have a deposit of X amount into your account because markets, unless they drop 15% in the next, or whatever the gap is, unless they drop that in the next 4 days, you're going to receive this coupon. And the same again when it comes to auto calls or maturities. To be able to say, okay, this has worked exactly as I told you it would, and it's going to come in there. The trust that it builds is like no other in comparison to a mutual fund. So if you've got a mutual fund and the clients, because every client asks, what am I expected to get back? What's my returns? If you say 8% a year is the average, okay? If we have anything less than 8% a year, you've let the client down. And especially if we have a negative, if we're minus 10% at the end of this year on the S&P 500 and your client's essentially 18% out from what you told them, that's not how to win a client or build trust. Whereas in that situation, if we are 10% down on most developed markets, your client's still going to be around 8% up because he will have got all of his coupons throughout the year. So it's one of those situations where I think it's absolutely perfect to build trust with the client, constant touch points and communication with them, and essentially build a calendar around the structured notes life cycle and be able to communicate that with the client on a regular basis. There was something else I was going to say, but I've completely forgotten it. I know you can edit this out.
Joe, I think it's very important, right? It's those positive and the income that really generates a lot of vibe with the advisors. But how do you keep clients invested, especially when there is a downturn, right? How do you communicate effectively?
In terms of if there's a downturn in the markets and the structured note is still all above the coupon barrier and everything's above the coupon barrier, that's the easiest way to win referrals and to win new business out there because you're outperforming the markets quite considerably. And this is the other thing that advisors don't do. If you've got a client who has a structured note and we're in a down period within the markets, but you're still getting the coupons and it's still paying out, that should be something that should be celebrated. You're beating the markets by definition. So it's like this is something that you should call your clients and say, look, to explain the situation, be completely open and honest with them and say, look, at the moment we've got 4 underlying assets within this structured note. 3 of them are down, 4 of them are down, or whatever from when we first purchased it. But you're on this investment still, whatever, 4 or 5% up, or whatever it might be at that point. That's a really powerful conversation to have with clients because you're showing that your plan that you've designed and executed is working for them. And a lot of people or a lot of advisors kind of don't do that. They just kind of send another one over to them and go, oh, here's another note. Are you interested? And it's like, no, explain to them what you've done. Explain how it's worked and how you've essentially beaten the markets by this plan that you've drawn out. And I just don't think it's done anywhere near enough.